So in 7.6, you're you're working on problems that have to deal with solving radical equation. Just like chapter 6 or every chapter before that, every chapter there's a theme to the topic that we're learning. And then, toward mid chapter, you first, before, 7.6, you learn how to simplify and subtract and then so forth. And then you get to this section where you learn how to solve an equation. So that's another thing you have to make a note of when you do exam or topics review again. You want to be able to make a note of what's the difference between the questions asking to solve or the question asking to simplify. If it has to do with solving, chances are the problem look like an equation. You have to solve for the variable x. And with radical, it's kind of tricky in the sense of, you have to be very careful when you're multiplying radicals within the equation to solve for x. It gets a little harder when you have, two radicals within the equation, or, you have another radical with different index. This is index 3 versus index 2. So I can do a couple of examples with you guys here to show how would you write this up here. Just like anything else, when you solve an equation, you want to isolate the variable x. In this case, the variable x is being square root. So the first thing you want to do is you want to isolate the radical that contain the variable x. So for this first one here, you can just add 3. So that gives us square of x equal to 7, right? And we can actually square both sides to undo the square root of x. So what we can do here is we'll say if I square that, I need to square on the right hand side as well. So therefore, this left hand side here, the square root of x, the square of that, it's just going to be x. So therefore, the answer is 49. And you should also check, if you're not sure whether the answer is correct or not. Mentally, we can just check 49 into x here. The square of 49 is 7. 7 minus 3 is 4, right? Yeah, so I'll get back to that in a second here. But yeah, so 49 is the answer. For this problem here, part B, if we subtract the 5, we get square of x over negative 2 equal negative 2. So the problem with solving radical equation is if we get so fixated on the procedure and solve for x and not realizing what we dealing with here, sometimes when we square both sides here, when we square in the equation, we include extra possibilities of values of x that is not part of the original equation solution. So in this case here, we said, okay, if I square both sides, the answer is 4. But when we check this answer here, when we check that, it turns out that it's not the correct answer because square root of 4 plus 5 is that equal to 3. Well, that's 7. That's not equal to 3. So what happened here? Well, when we go from this step to this step there, we are bringing the other possibility of the square part, and we get positive 4 when it should be no solution in this case. If you observe this line there, right, square root of a value of x, the square root simply refers to the principal root, and the result of that is never negative. So, and even the graph itself. So a square of x can never be negative. So if you make a note of that and understand that there, you don't have to do all this step here. So in this step there, you can say that in this case here, square root can't be negative, right? So from now on, you can say that, there's no solution there. So that's something you have to make note of is there are sometimes we call these solutions here, these are called extraneous. And you saw that a little bit too in chapter 6, section 6.5, when you have these solutions and when you plug it back to the original equation, it is not a solution because it's a solution of another type of equation that is not part of the original. Let's do another one here. Actually, I'm gonna do 2 more examples. I'm gonna do one more that contain these radicals here, and then maybe we can do the one with 2 radicals, and I'm gonna walk you guys through how to do that. So part D here, if you deal with a problem that have the variable x in both sides of the equation or multiple part of the equation, but there's also a radical as well. In this case, the radical term already being isolated. So what you want to do first is you want to undo the square root first. So to undo the square root, we square that. But if we square left-hand side, if we square left-hand side, we also square the right-hand side. And by squaring the entire right-hand side of that sum, we have to write like this here. So it will be wrong to write like this. So I'm gonna make a note. So it said incorrect to square like this. All right, sometime we do this and we say, okay, well, I'm gonna square both sides. Here's my square on the right-hand side. Okay, so this is wrong. Okay, so that's not correct. You want to square the quantity of x plus 5 the entire side. So keep that in mind. So this is wrong there. Okay, if you're not getting the right answer when you do this in the homework, come back to your work and say, okay, did I square both sides correctly? And then with the left-hand side become 1 minus 4x. The right-hand side, we're going to expand in x plus 5 times itself. So what do we have here? We have x squared plus 10x plus 25. And then we can isolate the variable x again. In this case, we have a square in this case. So that's using technique from the previous chapter, solving a quadratic equation using factoring. So I'm going to go ahead and bring everything to the right-hand side. So we get x squared plus 14x minus 24, right? And did I do that math correctly there? 6 and 4, 8 and 3, 12 and 2. Does this one factor? So what are the 2 factors 24 that give 14? Oh, 12. Yeah, there's a mistake. Can you guys see the mistake there?
12 into 2, so 12 minus 2x
Yes.
in middle part.
Yeah, 12 minus 2x, but so there's a small mistake I made there, because otherwise it wouldn't be factorable, because 12 times 2 is 24, but 12 plus 2 is 14. We want negative 24. So it turns out that I make a mistake with this because it's not negative 24, but it is positive, right?
Yeah.
So now we can factor that to x plus 12 and x plus 2. So negative 12 and negative 2. You also want to check if both answers are legit and not check for, so it's a check for extraneous solution. All right, sometimes we have one solution not working and sometimes we have another one working. Which one you think that this one it might not be a solution here? The negative 12 or negative 2? Any thoughts?
Negative 12.
Yeah, because if we plug negative 12, don't we get a negative 7 on this right-hand side here, right? And then square root can't be negative, right? So this is the correct answer there, and this is not correct, right? So the extraneous solution would be the negative 12. Okay. So keep in mind of that. I'm gonna give you guys a hint regarding the double square root. So if a variable is x, and if it's stuck under, it's within 2 separate radical terms, your guess is you're gonna have to end up squaring both sides more than once. Up here, you see how like in this problem, the variable x only got stuck under this radical once, so we square once, we'll square both sides once, and we were able to get down the answer. here, there are two radical terms that include the variable x underneath. So chances are to actually fully solve for this to get the answer for x, we probably end up having to square on both sides twice. Okay, so it is already set up in the case that one side of the equation has one radical term being isolated already, so we don't have to do anything extra from the beginning. All we can do is start out by undo this radical by squaring both sides first. Okay, so that's what you want to do. You want to square both sides first to undo the left radical. Okay, so now the left hand side becomes 2x, not radical, 2x minus 5. Okay, because the square root of that being squared, that just cancels out each other and just give you 2x minus 5. The right hand side, again, it looks complicated, and our mind is telling us that okay, if I'm gonna square the right hand side, this is our mind is telling us, because it has a radical, and it tells us we don't want to do the long way, we want to do the short way, and it's telling us to do this here. Do you think that's correct? If we square that, we get 1 squared plus square root of x minus b squared. Is that correct? So the answer is no, because it's the same thing as a plus b squared. It doesn't become a squared plus b squared. This is just a variation of it, right? So because we deal with radicals, sometimes our mind's playing a trick on us, and we revert to some of the bad habit of doing algebra is we want to get the answers quick as possible. We're not paying attention, and we just want to go the easy way. So we don't want to do that. Okay. So when we do this here, if it helps to remind you how to do this, you might want to say, okay, I'm going to write this as one more step. Said by squaring, meaning we take that sum of two terms time itself, and we're going to end up with, foiling this out. Okay, so this work here, this is in the previous lesson. I think 7.5 or 7.4, one of those. So you do have to FOIL this carefully, okay? So once you FOIL this, and you do have to separate the radical term again, and then square both sides one more time. Okay? So when you do this correctly, the first and the last, become nice. In the middle term, you have a radical still, and then you have to actually, you actually have to square both sides one more time to undo that radical. Okay, so I'll go ahead and do this for you here. All right, 1, 2 radical x minus 3 plus x minus 3. It's kind of like a, plus b squared, right? So you get a squared plus 2ab plus b squared. Well, it's kind of like that, right? So your a is 1, so that's 1 squared is 1. Your b squared is square root of x minus 3 squared. That become this term. And then 2ab is right here, right? And now you want to bring this over there, Don't divide by 2, because that might create some fraction. But instead, just leave it like that and square the entire thing. So I'm going to go ahead and do x, let's see, -2, -3, I believe, and then 2 square root of -3. Because 2x minus x is x, 1 plus -3 is -2 plus 2, that becomes -3. And from here, you want to square both sides like that again. I think I assigned 1 or 2 questions like this on the homework for those who already completed the homework, if you recall doing that. But yeah, so give that a try, and then come back tomorrow, and perhaps you have questions we can work on.